If you compare it to any other kind of RTS, like I think Age of Empires was it mentioned, or something, like having 8 completely separate races.
Unique races,
races. And having them actually, was Soulstorm ever vaguely balanced?
Nah, Soulstorm was never balanced. Let's not pretend it was. We'll just incur the wrath of all the Dawn of War fans.
Even attempting to have 8 unique races is a pretty big. I mean, it was
have
well
balls,
done.
Man.
Yeah, go for it. I mean, I've got to say, I'm a campaign bloke myself. I think one of the few people who's ever played more StarCraft campaign than I ever did multiplayer.
I think that's everyone who doesn't want to pretend they're shit at StarCraft, though.
Well, I never held any interest to me competitive StarCraft, but I really enjoy the story. I'm a big story nut with games in general, and it tied me up. The campaigns for the original Dawn of War were great fun.
But that leads me that leads really nicely into our next point.
Yes.
Story.
So
we didn't want to do an episode all about patch 3.18 today.
No, it's a bit numbers and...
Yeah, not everyone gives a shit about patch notes, so everyone could read it themselves and make up their own mind.
Yes.
But, story. So we wanted to talk about the story in 40k games.
Yeah.
So I briefly touched on it last week. Like, Space Marine had a really... Maybe not a great story.
I think the conclusion we came to was simplistic, classic, but not simplistic.
Yeah,
classic. Yeah,
I think but it was It was a little bit predictable.
Okay,
and it was a little bit straightforward. And we're trying to say that the 40,000 universe has a lot to give in terms of story.
Yeah, I mean they've had nearly 30 odd years to invent and write backstory for it. And
and while they butcher it every couple of years, at least their story is still there.
They go around and retcon it. But same as with any other sci-fi.
Yeah, but it's like they've got so many Space Marine chapters and so much they can cover, and sometimes it just seems a little limited in scope. I mean, Space Marine focused on the Ultramarines, and every Dawn of War story so far has been about Blood Ravens. And there's a lot of cool stories they can tell. So the primary example I wanted to bring up was Horus Heresy.
Yes,
so the Black Library at the moment runs their Horus Heresy series.
Yeah, and they've been going since, I can't remember, but a fair few years, 3 or 4 years now.
Three or 4 years.
And for anyone who doesn't know, it's a Black Library of the publishing house for Games Workshop.
Yeah.
They release Games Workshop novels, and since a few years ago, 3 or 4 years, they've been releasing incrementally a whole series of books which are tied up in one narrative, which tell the story of the Horus Heresy, which is the big foundation of the 40k universe.
Yeah, so the point of 40k is that that the Emperor of Mankind, the God Emperor as he's now known, makes Space Marines, sends them on Great Crusade. Half of them get corrupted by chaos.
Yeah.
They come back, try and kill him, almost succeed.
Big civil war.
Yeah, big civil war, led by Horus. Hence Horus Heresy, because Horus is the arch heretic.
Yeah.
And blah. So we end up with our current 40k setting of Space Marine versus Chaos Space Marine.
Yeah, on the two sides.
And this is what I wanted to get at, was every single 40k story nowadays, although it's the basis and backbone, comes down to a really boring confrontation between Space Marine and Chaos.
Right.
And the Horus Heresy series is not that cut and dry. It's not that black and white. I guess maybe this is one of those challenges of getting video game narrative and book narrative together.
Yeah.
You need to have player interaction. But it would be so cool to play some battles where not everything's black and white, and that your actual actions you have to turn to chaos for some reason, and they tried to get towards that in Chaos Rising, which I really liked.
With the whole corruption thing. I mean, it might be because there hasn't been a proper 40k RPG yet. I mean, I could imagine. I remember talking with a good friend of ours, Julian, who we were talking about how cool it would be to have an RPG on the scale of Cotter, Knights of the Old Republic.
Yeah.
Where you play just an Inquisitor, say.
Or it doesn't even have to be an Inquisitor, it was a sidekick.
Something where you're not a Space Marine and your whole thing isn't just bashing enemies. It's you actually have to do story, investigation, blah blah blah. I mean, another really good book series is the Eisenhorn series.
Yes.
And they're an amazing read, mostly because they're just humans and blah blah blah, and it focuses a lot on drama and interpersonal. I mean, there's a lot of big stakes and 40k and stuff, but it goes into the backstory of 40k and the worlds, and they talk about what it's like to be on a human planet without Space Marines and Chaos like blowing things up and psyching.
What it's like to be a man, and let's
Yeah.
be honest, we're all human, so it's something we can relate to quite
Yeah,
easily.
So I mean that would be really cool, but I mean I guess because the market, I don't know, is for space.
The
things
market,
like,
the market is for things like Space Marine, which are first-person shooters.
are awesome. I mean they're really enjoyable, but if you're looking for a good story, maybe not the most in-depth thing. I mean it's a good point. Yeah.
Yeah. But I would love to see something like what was it again? Sorry, Istvan
Istvan 4.
Istvan 5.
5. 4, 5.
Istvan 5.
The Istvan Massacre.
Yes, where you know there's like you want a really epic long mission where there's like a fight. There's suddenly a fight breaks out, and you're holding the line for a little bit, and then you know you want it to play from both sides. You want to play as players like Horus's troops like holding
to get into the mindset of why these things are happening, rather than lol chaos. They're
evil.
They're evil. They're generic and definitely black and white and evil. Whereas in the Horus Heresy stories, and this might be slightly spoilers, but the first 3 or 4 books are all from the same character's point of view. After that, they sort of jump around a bit. Each book tells a different sort of chapter, but the first few are just from the point of view of a character who's in the chapter or the legion that Horus leads, and it shows what how slow, and it's not just they go, oh, let's turn to chaos now. It's like a big sort of ethical fight,
yeah,
and it corrupts, and you slowly see Horus break down and finally give in to chaos, and it's not because he's gone, oh, alright, I'm evil now. He's finally going sort of, oh, chaos, I'm going to do it because I want to save the galaxy, and you slowly see it, and it's really tragic. It's like a Greek tragedy. It's
the greatest son of the Emperor, hero of the Imperium.
I mean, you can
turned.
relate it to sort of the Dark Knight, the Harvey Dent character. You know, the greatest, brightest thing was the one that fell the furthest.
Yeah.
And that was a really cool thing to read about. You don't, whereas in the codexes and stuff, because it's a novel, you have more depth to go into codex and stuff. It's just okay, he was wounded and got chaosed. He caught chaos,
You catch it. It's a virus.
It's a virus, Whereas in the books, you see the motivation behind it and the struggles, but I mean that I get. People could answer this, I guess. Do you think are they just two different games? And I mean, these are books.
Yeah, but I think this is a medium clash, isn't it? Like, I think Chaos Rising came the closest we've gotten to that almost narrative feeling.
And that was an RTS, so that was leading.
It was an RTS RPG.
So, yeah, obviously, but I mean, if you focus on one character, you obviously get a lot more in depth. Whereas this is just that's an RTS. That's why it's impressive that they managed to get that conflict in. But I mean, do you think it's something that could be achieved? I mean, obviously, you can't compare them too much, books and games, because they are.
I think I just like
two completely different mediums.
Yeah.
As much as you want them to be.
But I just want there to be more depth to it than, oh look, chaos have turned up.
Yeah.
Oh look, we're evil. We're going to stomp all over this Forge world.
Yeah.
That's one of the biggest things that got to me about Space Marine is I loved the game, but the story was one-dimensional, and you can't. And replaying the campaign is difficult because there isn't much to it. It's just lol orcs, lols, chaos Space Marines.
Yeah, but I mean, I guess one other argument is if you go too far in the other direction, you end up with Metal Gear Solid 4. Which,
where the
that
game
was a movie. That was a story with some interactive elements. I mean,
it's
I'm a huge.
It's a movie where you control a man who
fanboy.
shoots stuff every couple of seconds.
I'm a huge Metal Gear Solid fanboy, but I think even I timed the time between the last time you press a button in one act and the first time you get to press a button in the other act, and it was just shy of an hour. It was like 58 minutes, and that's proper storytelling in inverted commas, but it's a bit much.